Hey guys, Holly here. It is day 11 of the 21-day You Woke Up Worthy journaling experience. And, do you ever have one of those days where you feel like you had a long list of things to do and the end of it rolled around and you got none of it done? I'm definitely having one of those days. But it was interesting. I guess this experience is having more of an effect on me than I realized, because in the past this really would have affected my mood. I would have spent a lot of time beating myself up about all of the things I didn't get done. And today it was just a little more, hey, you know what? They're gonna get done another day. Which was, man, that was really a pleasant change from how I would have felt about things in the past. So I guess this is having more of an impact on me than I realized. So that being said, let's get to day 11. Day 11 is called Creating Space. Now this one kind of feels like a freebie to me because I've already done this work, and very recently too. So in the chapter for day 11, the author asks, are you hanging on to a lot of old stuff? Said you'd be surprised at how heavy all that old energy can be. And it's about decluttering your environment, both physical and digital. Maybe your house is neat and tidy, but you're one of those people that has 10,000 unread emails in your inbox, and part of it is because you're subscribed to all of these mailing lists that you're never going to read these emails. So decluttering for you might be going and unsubscribing to all of these emails that you don't need in the first place. For a lot of people, it is going through their physical environment and doing some decluttering. And this was interesting because she said, today's project is to identify a space that needs to be cleared out, and then to, start the process of decluttering. So I really got a giggle out of this because I just finished a full house decluttering a couple of weeks ago. So a lot of you are probably familiar with the KonMari method. Marie Kondo, a Japanese decluttering expert. She has a series that at this point in time is available to watch on Netflix called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. She also has a book called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And it talks all about how she became this decluttering expert, and then takes you through the process of decluttering. And it's funny because I had heard a lot of people talking about it. I had seen a lot of YouTubers doing these decluttering experiments, and they were kind of interesting to watch. And I wasn't really buying into it a whole lot, but I couldn't help but notice that over and over I was hearing about the people talking about how kind of life-changing, that was the term that was used so much, life-changing that the experience had been. And I thought, how life-changing could it really be, So I decided to go ahead and read her book because curiosity just got the best of me. And as I'm reading it, there was a lot of things that she was saying it was kind of hitting home for me. And there were some things that I held on to. See, a little bit of backstory on me. We moved around a lot when I was a child. And I know people in the military that didn't move as much as we did. I went to 2 schools every year, sometimes 3, all the way up until finally the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. My parents bought a house down here in Central Florida. We lived in that house from that summer until I graduated high school, so about 3.5 years. And at that point, that was the longest I had ever lived anywhere in my entire life. my record is still only 5 years. I'm 40 years old now, and the longest I've ever spent in one place at one time is 5 years. I don't know if that's good or bad. Honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. But anyway, because we moved so much, we tended to kind of purge things as we were preparing to move. It was, my mom kind of deciding, is this something worth packing again? And a lot of things got gone. So there were a couple of things that I've noticed over the years that I really, really, really held on to. My big ones were books and movies. And the reason that I held on to these things, I've figured this out now. I wasn't aware of it at the time. But they provided consistency. The stories that I loved, I have books that I read every year, and some of them I've read every year since I was 10 years old. Island of the Blue Dolphins, Where the Red Fern Grows, Stephen King's It, and Carrie. The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. There's a list of these books, and I read them every year, and I love them. Every time I read them, I love them just as much as I did the first time. The stories never get old for me. Even when I have passages memorized, I could just quote them from memory. It's still, reading it, I love them, and it was a consistency that I didn't really feel in my actual life. So these fictional worlds that I visited, they always stayed the same, and that was really comforting. And so I didn't get to have friends that I grew up with the way that some people do. I was constantly saying goodbye to friends and starting over again somewhere else. So my books were my loyal friends, the stories that I took with me wherever we went. The stories stayed the same, and I could imagine myself in those books, and those characters, those became friends. So that was a bit of a rabbit trail there, but just to give you an idea on why I held on to certain things. So I'd amassed quite a collection, and when I started really thinking about why was I holding on to some of these things in particular, and I realized I had books that I had been holding on to maybe because it had been a gift from somebody, and maybe it wasn't even really my taste. Maybe I never even finished it, or if I did, I knew I'd never read it again, but I still held on to it because it was a gift from someone, and it makes you feel guilty if you give away a present. And that's something that Marie Kondo addresses in her book, and it's funny because once I read it, it made so much sense. I couldn't argue with the logic of it. And, she said, like, for example, with gifts, the purpose of a gift is to express some kind of feeling, whether that's love or appreciation, thanks, gratitude, affection, whatever the case may be. And the moment that you receive the gift, it has served its purpose. It did its job. It expressed whatever it was that the giver was trying to express. So you should not feel guilty about letting go of that thing and maybe passing it on to someone else, or donating it, or selling it, or throwing it out if it's become worn out. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that because it was a gift. That was kind of eye-opening for me. Now, obviously, you don't want to be hurtful. We don't necessarily advertise that we didn't hold on to these things, but you also don't have to hold on to the guilt about it. You shouldn't hold on to things and let them take up space in your life if they're not actually bringing joy into your life as well. So that was a big one. The other one for me that I had a hard time with was books and movies. I had several that I'd had for a while, and I still hadn't got around to watching them or reading them or whatever the case may be. And, in her book, she says, If you bought a book a year ago and you still haven't read it, there's a pretty good chance you're never going to. And that perhaps that book's purpose was actually to teach you that you didn't need to read it. So it's okay to let that go. So anyway, I went through my whole house and did decluttering, and it was amazing, the stuff that we had accumulated that you're just not even aware. And a lot of it is, you know, you buy something, you put it somewhere, you can't remember where it is, and then the time comes that you need it, you can't find it, you just go out and get another one. So in the process of my decluttering, we found four neck pillows. Who needs 4 neck pillows? Not us. Even between the two of us, we've only got 2 necks. Why do we have 4? We have 4 because when we had 3, we couldn't find them. When we had 2, we didn't know that we had them, you know, and when we only had 1, we couldn't find it, and we bought another one, you know. Eventually we just ended up with 4 of them. I got rid of about 175 books and over 400 movies, and probably about 30 box sets of TV shows. Now, I still have large collections, but it's funny, it was so much easier than I thought it was to let some of that stuff go. So I had 2 garage sales. I got rid of quite a bit of it. There's a few individual things I'm gonna list on, you know, Craigslist, Facebook, places like that, and see if I can get rid of them. But over the course of this next week, everything is getting donated. If it's not sold, getting it gone. And it's actually like kind of freeing. It's really interesting how clutter in your physical space can create the feeling of so much clutter in your mind, and that it's so much easier to be clear when your space feels organized. So the lesson for the day, I had actually kind of already accomplished it. So the prompts were, what in your life could use a good cleanse? And for me, it was my physical space. It was my house. I needed to go through my books. I needed to go through my movies. I needed to go through crafting supplies, clothes. I needed to go through clothes. Ryan and I both got rid of so many clothes. It was awesome. Everything fits easily into the closet and the dresser now. Sorry, I have the hiccups. The other prompt said, choose at least 1 or 2 areas that you'll commit to decluttering over the next couple of days. So I had already done it, and so that was fabulous. Yay me. Today ended up being kind of a freebie. So I'm gonna just wrap up with the affirmations, and then I'll prep for tomorrow. All right, so I woke up worthy today. Just by waking up, I'm worthy of everything that my heart desires. I'm a beautiful soul inside and out. I love myself deeply and completely. I am perfect at being me. Thank you for following along. I hope you guys have been enjoying, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.